Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Look, I think foreign policy isn't so much about friendship, and it's not about the personalities of leaders. Bilateral relations are complex and include trade, people-to-people, security issues. And I think Canada-India relations are deep and longstanding, and will continue to grow once we deal with this really important issue that's before us. I find it a little bit surprising that in democracy as large and mature as India's, that we're not seeing some voices come to the surface and say, the quiet diplomacy was tried, quiet conversations were tried. There were quiet visits by Canadian officials, very senior security officials to India. The leaders of the two countries discussed this individually. Why then did the Prime Minister, speak about this? And this is not the type of issue that's common in Canada. This type of murder, and it's incredibly serious, and it is not something that would be politicized by our Prime Minister. The dynamics of our politics apply, frankly, equally to most of our political parties. Yes, diaspora politics are important in a relatively young country like Canada. Yes, we have a large contingent of Sikh Canadians, of Punjabi Canadians, but we also have people of South Indian ancestry, and including in our cabinet, including among the opposition parties. So we actually have a very we now have a formal investigation underway into election interference in our country. Mm-hmm. There were two countries named in that investigation. The countries are China and Russia. Mm-hmm. But the justice who is running it, who is completely independent, can decide to look into other countries and other pieces of evidence. And I think one of the reasons the Prime Minister decided to speak publicly, in addition to the fact that it sounds like the information had made its way into the Canadian media and was about to be released, mm-hmm. is that he's very concerned about a precedent. Mm-hmm. That if he doesn't say something, that other countries, such as China perhaps, will see what has happened and feel that they can act with impunity in our country. And that is simply that's simply not the case. But
that's a bit incredible, Mr. Ovens. That's a bit incredible, because you're risking the relations with a friendly country because of possible fears of other countries, which, as you yourself have described and Mr. Wong have described, are clearly not democratic countries. I don't think that's even how they describe themselves. The world knows them to be autocracies. Surely there's a difference in the approach, and there has to be a difference in approach, because even Mr. Wong expresses fears about whether this is nothing but vote bank politics or supporting parties, or however one chooses to articulate it, and domestic political concerns more than anything else. Mr. Ovens.
I think Canada has not been trying to escalate the situation. I think they tried to deal with it quietly. I think they extended a number of courtesies officially and quietly to India that would certainly not have been extended to a country like Russia. And I'm not sure that they obviously weren't satisfied with the response. I'll tell you, our securities agencies are not, cannot be politicized in the way that is sort of being popularized in some of the Indian press at the moment. And in fact, they have found ways to hold the government to account when they feel that something's being improperly politicized. So, however, because of the way intelligence is collected, often it requires that the evidence not be released generally, that they be dealt with by special courts. That's simply how it is. The problem is that with the Indian response and the lack of transparency in the response, that breeds further conspiracies. It breeds for example, what has been reported today in Birmingham, in the UK, which is another group of people in the Sikh community who are very concerned about a death in their community. If the Indian government engaged with the Canadian government in a joint investigation, there would actually be a good cooperative response.
Well,